Namaste and welcome to another episode of Rooted in Roaming, where we discuss Indian American perspective, issues that you know concern us. And today I have my co-anchor Lalit Jhaji. Lalit Jhaji, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to
Lalit,
see you.
yes, good to have you here as well. Lalit Jai is the founder of India Abroad. So welcome again. And we are now privileged to have today with us Rakhi Israni. Rakhi Israni is the congressional candidate from California's 14th district, primary candidate. Welcome, Rakhi.
Thank you. Thank you, Avatans ji. Thank you. Nice to see you both. Lalit ji, thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. So it's really wonderful to have you talk to us about your congressional bid, and it is, you know, we are talking to you after we just had our primary in Illinois, and sad to say that our count of Indian American representation in the Congress has gone down, right? So we didn't get the Senate. Uh, Congressman Raja, who was vying for the Senate seat of Senator Dick Durbin, he lost, and he had to also give up the congressional seat. So now we are pinning our hope on you. So good luck. So we're going to start our conversation. And first of all, tell us about yourself, your family background, whatever else you want to tell us about.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm very glad to be here with both of you. So my story here in the United States started when my parents came from India in 1967. This was shortly after Congress had passed the Immigration Nationality Act of 1965, a law that actively encouraged high-skill immigration to see how do we strengthen this country and make it even better. And that's a law that changed a lot of our lives. It changed my family's lives. It changed millions of people's lives. And it's a reminder that decisions made in Congress can affect generations. But I grew up in Houston. For most of my life, I grew up in Houston. I went to law school, business school. And then about 2.5 decades, about 23 years ago, I moved to the Bay Area to start a company, an educational company. I built it from the ground up, hired people, navigated the system. I started a family. I have 4 kids that are raised here, all teenagers. And like a lot of parents, I was very active in their schooling system. I served as PTA president at every level, elementary, middle school, and high school, as well as in the regional council PTA. I was serving the community in a lot of different ways, which are whatever resources I had at my disposal. I was representing underserved families in court or advising them, those that were in crisis, parents that were navigating a legal system that really wasn't built for them. I helped seniors with estate planning. I was appointed to be a temporary judge in the local county. And during this time, I joined the leadership team of several nonprofit organizations, some local, some national, and one such role as Vice President of Government Affairs with Save International. I worked with state and federal officials on policy issues related to education, food security, mental and physical health. And it was an eye-opening because we were able to bring a grassroots perspective into policy discussions, highlighting what communities were seeing on the ground. And these experiences really changed how I think about public service. I mean, you can do an enormous amount of good from the outside, but a lot of these decisions are made only on the inside. And it's very important to have more of a grassroots kind of perspective as you're building policy. And I saw that in many cases that was missing. So I'm an attorney, an entrepreneur, an educator, a mother of 4. And I think I see running for Congress kind of not as a departure from any of that, but really the natural next step, a place where everything I've learned, that everything I've built, everything I've fought for kind of comes together. A lot of it is, my parents came here because of a promise, and my goal is to protect that promise for my kids and their kids and future generations.
Wonderful. Lalit, do you have a question?
Yeah. So you have a very diverse professional background. You are a working mom, a business owner, an attorney, and a graduate of the police academy. What inspired you to enter politics?
A couple of things. One is, I mean, we're living in trying times. There's a lot of chaos that's going on in the country currently. I think all of us are kind of watching what's happening to the country's political culture, and we're living through a moment of deliberate, orchestrated division. And I don't mean the ordinary disagreements that you see in nations or that democracies might all have. I think what we're seeing is something a lot more corrosive. It's a politics built on exclusion, finding new groups to cast as problems, on telling people they don't belong. And we see this happening up close to our community, whether it's, Raja Krishnamurthy, he went through it just even recently, or Vivek Ramaswamy on the right, are both being told to go back to India, even though they were born and brought up here. We see Texas City Council hearings where Californians and Indian Americans are being described as problems to be solved. These aren't fringe moments. These are signals of a larger problem. I have my work, I have my business, I have my family. I was involved in the community. I was doing my part in serving the society, but at some point we have a duty to stand up when things aren't going well. We build our lives, we contribute when we can, we take care of our kids, we trust the system to kind of course correct. But when it doesn't, we have a duty to act. But the second reason, I think the reason that's a little bit more dear to my heart is that, I guess it's kind of an extension of the first reason, is that I work with kids every single day in my business. This is what I've done for 20 something years. And something has definitely shifted in their mindset. These are bright kids, some of the brightest that I've seen, that are asking questions, who really should be excited about their future, but they're asking questions that indicate a whole new level of stress. It's more than just this normal teenage stress about whether what their future is going to entail, whether they're going to be able to afford to live here, whether college is even worth it anymore. And this is, when you have young people that are losing faith in the future, that's not a policy problem, that's a crisis. And it seems to be getting worse. And in fact, I'll just give my example that, my eldest of four, Sia, is, when I was thinking about running for Congress, I talked to all four of my kids and I asked them, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What are your thoughts? And, my eldest one, she said, at first she said, no, don't do it. Politics is very dirty. Don't do it. And then a few days later, they were at school and they were talking about, I think they were talking about the ICE raids or something. And the teacher was going off on how bad the world is and what's going, who this is, who's good, who's bad or whatever. And she came home and she was extremely anxious. My husband and I sat her down and we talked it through with her. But by the end of it, she turned to me and said, Mommy, I was thinking about it. I think you just need to run. And that was it. I didn't get into this because it was a good opportunity. I got into this because I saw my own kids and the effect that the current political system is having on their psyche and on their outlooks for the future. And this is what I had to do.
Yeah, that's very correct. Mental health epidemic is taken a very bad shape in our country in the last few years, potentially maybe COVID. So yeah, I'm glad that you're talking about it. But what are some of the issues that your constituent are talking about? What will be your priority in the first year for your own constituency in the district?
Yeah. So the East Bay, which is this district covers most of the East Bay, is one of the most dynamic. It's one of the most educated, one of the most hardworking communities in America, and it's we see this kind of middle class squeeze that's happening here. And when you talk to families across the district, you hear a couple of things constantly. One is, can I afford to buy a home? Will I be able to afford to live here? Medical bills, whether that's something that they're going to be able to handle. And one of the biggest ones is, will I have a job in 10 years, right? And we're in the proximity to Silicon Valley. AI is going to totally disrupt this entire economy and the entire area. These are actual conversations that are happening right now. A median home in Fremont costs $1.6 million. And that's it. If a family does everything right, 2 incomes, a good credit, years of saving, and they can't still buy a home, then there's a problem. And that's what's happening. And with AI and a lot of this stuff reshaping entire industries, a lot of workers are asking what to do next. And these are the three things that, should be the priority for anyone that's in this district: housing, healthcare, and preparing people for the economy that's actually coming. On the second point of, what politicians and I'm sorry?
Your priority for the first year.
Oh, priority for the first year. Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of times what's happening with politicians is that because of social media and because we kind of live in this like quick TikTok generation, you have politicians that are kind of performing, fundraising, scoring points as opposed to actually getting things done. And my goal is, because I've built a business, I've been involved in the community, I feel I'm coming at this in a very different way of actually wanting to perform and actually produce, which is why I'm getting into a lot of this stuff. So prioritizing the components that are necessary for this district and actually prioritizing the idea of problem solving is going to be one of the biggest focuses areas.
One of the very important debate is going on right now in the Congress, the Save America Act. And one of the important part of Save America Act is the voter ID, or identification to go out and vote. Does proof of citizens need to be a requirement for registration of vote? And what are your thoughts on the voter ID?
Well, one thing is clear, that only citizens should vote. And I don't think that's controversial. And I think that most Americans would agree with that. Non-citizen voting, though, I think is extraordinarily rare. And the data to support that is pretty unambiguous. So I think we're talking.
I don't think there's any country in this world which allows non-citizens to vote. Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, and that's.
I think the New York City had started a position where they would say allow non-citizens to vote in New York City races, right? If I'm correct. Wow. But it didn't go through. There was a proposal. So.
Yeah, I mean, the federal law, I mean, right now, if we just go by the law, only citizens should vote. And we should make it easy for eligible citizens to vote, as opposed to setting up roadblocks for their ability to do so. And, asking for proof of citizenship, I think, can be overly burdensome in a lot of ways. And unless you have actually clear remediation paths, I mean, a lot of people don't have their birth certificates, or their names are misspelled, or there's, you have a lot of married women that, where it causes problems. So unless there's clear remediation paths where, simple affidavit process, for example, or mobile assistance for elderly or rural voters, or meaningful accommodations for documentation gaps, then I think it makes sense to have these discussions. But otherwise, you're making it overly burdensome for people that, it's their right to vote. You're making it overly burdensome for them to do so.
Okay, so I think my next question is that you are a businesswoman, right? You own a small business. What situation that you see in the country for small business owners? Is it affordable for them? Is it the situation or the government support is enough, or how do you propose to help the small business owners? Because we were talking to Professor Subhash Kak the other day, and he was talking in terms of the same, AI disruption and all that. So I think it's going to affect more small businesses than bigger corporations. So what is your solution for that, or what are your thoughts for that?
Yeah, and small businesses are the lifeblood of this economy, right? I mean, you have a significantly high percentage of businesses that are small businesses, and that contribute to the economy in very significant ways, with hiring employees or supporting the growth of the economy. And as a small business owner myself, I tell you that you can't really separate your business from the community to begin with. I mean, my employees live here, the customers live here, and when things become difficult for them, or costs go up for them, it makes it very difficult for the businesses that are trying to thrive based on that. And like, you're right. I mean, the big company CEOs or most of the politicians, I don't think they generally understand that, because they have, like, especially a lot of the big ones, they have their lawyers to navigate a lot of the stuff, whereas the smaller businesses generally have to do a lot of things on their own. So when we talk about small businesses today, We really have to make sure that the cost, especially with a lot of the tariff stuff that are going on, it's driving up costs tremendously for small businesses when they're importing goods and then having to pass it on to the customers. Affordability becomes even a bigger issue for a lot of them. The capital access remains unequal, where you have SBA lending that has improved, but community lenders are still underserved in a lot of federal programs. And the regulatory burden for a small business is actually very real. And these are things that really need to be looked at if we want to support and encourage the small businesses in any district.
You say you will go to DC with a get it done mentality, but you are one of the 435, right? Of all the institutions in the country, the approval rating of the Congress is quite low, in fact, the lowest right now. How do you propose you will get it done?
You're right. I'll be one of 435 in Congress. And I mean, there's no way that I could, to think that any of us works in isolation is unrealistic. I mean, I'm not going to walk in and single-handedly be able to fix anything, but I don't believe that it's true that nothing can change. And that's a whole different kind of excuse, I think. If we just stop performing and start engaging, it means sitting down with stakeholders, business owners, healthcare workers, educators, local officials, whatever it is, before writing policy, not after. That goes a long way. It means letting data drive decisions instead of ideology, which is what we see today in a lot of places. I mean, questions like, are jobs growing? Are people able to afford to live here? Is the local economy actually getting stronger? I mean, these are the metrics that matter, and not how a vote plays on social media. I think that a lot of times Washington is broken because most members are optimizing for survival. They're voting party lines. They're keeping the donors happy. They're avoiding the fights. And we need to get away from that. We need to actually find people on both sides that are willing to solve problems, that are willing to work together to build something that's greater than that. And that coalition exists. It's a matter of finding the members willing to prioritize outcomes over purity. And we just focus on three simple components. One is, does this grow the economy? Does it create jobs? And does it make life measurably better for families in this district? And if it does, I mean, it's a no-brainer. This is what, regardless of what, whether you're towing the party line or not, you focus on those things. And if not, then you don't.
Very true. And I don't think the Supreme Court has helped the legislatures because they are keep sending things back to legislature to frame legislation on a lot of things. So your plates are getting bigger and bigger. The things on your plate are getting bigger and bigger. So, but you already talked about your little bit about your involvement in the community. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that? Your local community?
Sure.
Or national as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that, I think I mentioned I grew up in Houston, Texas, before I came out to California. And I grew up at a time when there were very few Indians there. I mean, when my parents came, they were one of very few, a handful. And so we were a very small community, still finding our footing in the country in this new city. And what I'll tell you that one of the things that I saw from that generation is how quietly, how very selflessly, without any expectation or recognition, they were able to build something from nothing. And they sacrificed their time, their resources, to create a community, to give us a sense of belonging, to make sure that we knew who we were, even as we were becoming something new. They did it because it needed to be done, not because anyone asked them to do it. And I think that has stuck with me, and a lot of things that I have done going forward. It's become the lens through which I have seen my own life, how I've run my own life, I should say. So services hasn't been something that I've just picked up along the way. It's been really this thread that's run through everything. As a kid, as a young adult, I was very active in a lot of the youth activities as a counselor and director of the local camps, learning early what it means to be responsible for others. I served as president of a national student organization where I first understood that you could take the same spirit of community building that my parents modeled and their generation modeled and bring it to a larger stage. It carried me through every chapter of my life, into the PTA where I served as president at every level, into the courtrooms representing families, into the interfaith councils and nonprofit boards. I think I'll just say that my parents built a community with whatever they had, and I've tried to honor that my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
For Congress, really, I think, in a kind of a next expression of that same thing.
Wonderful.
And in the last few years, in fact, this year, we have seen a great increase attack on hate crimes on the Hindus and Indian Americans, not only on the religious institution, but also we can see something like caste legislation, Indian businesses in the Bay Area, vandalism of public places. So, since you have worked so much in this local community, what do you think? Who is whipping this, or what is whipping up these sentiments? And if you're elected to the Congress, how you're going to help it?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, like what we're going through as a community, is that the hate is really coming from both sides. It's very real, and it's I think it's very serious. It's something that we need to look at. I mean, on the fringe right, we've heard it very explicitly. People like Nick Fuentes telling Indian American candidates to go home, go back to India. Laura Loomer making sweeping generalizations about Indian culture. I mean, these are not isolated trolls. I mean, these are personalities with platforms.
In her defense, that she has apologized in India.
In India,
yes.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of these things, they've been given more oxygen than they deserve.
Certainly.
But we've also seen it from the left. My opponent Aisha Wahab used the floor of the California State Senate to connect Indian Americans to human trafficking, to murder, to rape through caste narratives. The caste legislation treated the Hindu identity as inherently oppressive. No other ethnic community in California would have tolerated that, and I think it really needs to be called out. But none of this is new. If you look in the 1880s, it was Chinese immigrants. They were called disease carriers. Then the Irish, then the Italians, the Japanese, the Jewish Americans. The accusations are always the same. You are dangerous, you are not loyal, you don't belong. And our community, simply the current chapter in this very old story, our community's success really makes us a target. And so what do we do, right? What do we do about this? I mean, we definitely pass and we enforce hate crime legislation. We make sure that federal resources are available to protect our houses of worship, our community institutions, and those all we will fight to do. But you cannot legislate hate out of existence. What actually moves the needle is visibility and power. The Indian American community is among one of the most educated, entrepreneurial, civically engaged in this country. And we've been chronically underrepresented in rooms where decisions get made. And that changes when we have real representation. Not someone who shows up at Diwali and just disappears, but someone who actually fights for everyone in their district, regardless of background, and make sure that our community has a permanent, respected seat at that table. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. And that's what makes it very sad what happened to Congressman Krishnamurthy. He was a great champion for the community in every respect.
Yeah, I also think that, it doesn't come naturally to us Hindus because we are not a proselytizing religion and we don't have the missionary zeal. So we don't engage in dialogue or trying to impress upon other people what we are. But I think in this community, we need to go out and have a dialogue with everybody. That will be one way to go. Now, switching gear a little bit here with you, Rakhi ji, is that when we talk about primaries, we know that pretty much everywhere in the U.S., you have different parties put on their primary candidates, and then they fight among themselves. They pick one, and then that picked candidate is the candidate that goes against the other party's candidate. But California is a little bit different. Can you tell us a little bit about it so that everybody knows what we are dealing with?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, California has an open primary system, which means the top two vote getters, so the primary is on June 2nd, and the top two vote getters in June will go on to the general election in November, regardless of party. So you can have two Democrats go on to the general or two Republicans go on to the general, and anyone can vote for anybody.
Okay.
Who are your main competitors here?
So currently there are nine. There are two Republicans, one independent, and then six Democrats. The main opponent, there's like I said, there's other five other Democrats. But as I mentioned, I think State Senator Aisha Wahab is one of the opponents.
Okay. So I think your district is predominantly Democratic. So chances of having, your opponent potentially will be a Democrat, right? Mostly.
Mostly, probably. That's right.
Yeah.
How is the campaign going on right now? How is a day? A typical day looks like?
It's hectic. It's a lot of talking to the voters, going out and meeting people, hearing about the issues, talking about what the concerns that people have. It's overall very hectic.
Tell us about your regular campaign day. Just what you do.
So a lot of what it is we've started the outreach, meeting people from the various cities, talking to not only elected officials but people on the ground, one of the things I've seen about this race is that especially in the Indian American community, the excitement's very high. There's a lot of excitement about having a voice, especially after the caste legislation thing, where I think a lot of people kind of felt shut out of the process. So that's been really good, is to see that excitement and seeing people wake up and seeing people get more involved. So that's been a very enriching part of this whole experience.
I know as a congresswoman, your main priority would be your constituents in your district, but the Congress also has a very important role to play national, international level policies. What is your commitment to the Indian American community? And if in the Congress, what role do you want to play in building India-US relationship?
Yeah, no, that's, so my commitment actually to the Indian American communities that to be a real voice for the community in Congress, not a ceremonial one, but actually advocating for things that are not only good for our community, but that are good for the larger community as well, that bring prosperity to everybody. On the question of U.S.-India relationships, in my opinion, I think India is not just an ally. It is arguably one of our most natural allies for the century that we're actually living in. Think about what we share. It's the world's two largest democracies, a deep commitment to the rule of law, complementary economies, and a common interest in a stable Indo-Pacific region. And this is at a time when authoritarianism is on a rise globally. This level of foundation matters more than ever. Especially being from this district, the proximity to Silicon Valley, we see something that the rest of the country kind of maybe possibly misses, is that this relationship is already working. At the ground level every single day. The ties between this region and the technology hubs of Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai are not just cultural. These are engines of global innovation in a lot of ways. The companies that were built on that bridge, the research, collaborations and all that are happening, the talent flowing in both directions. This is what economic partnership actually really looks like. So it's not just a trade agreement on paper, I would say. These are two countries actually generally building things together. India is a critical counterweight in a world where China is aggressively expanding its influence. A strong U.S.-India relationship isn't just good economics; it's good foreign policy. I see this relationship every day, and it's something that I think, at least I will actively advocate for.
Wonderful. I think we're coming to the end of our conversation, and as we have done it with other candidates also, we give you the floor. And like Amitabh ji says, in the elevator pitch for yourself. So all yours.
Yeah, this is, we are at a time, as I mentioned, where there's a lot of chaos in the world. Not only for our kids, but for their kids and all. We need to start being actively involved in the political system. We need to start advocating for our own interests. We need to start paying attention to policies. And for someone like me who has actually served our community in my entire life, and I hope to do it in Congress, this is a seat that's actually really meant for our community. It has one of the highest Indian American registered voters in the country in this particular district. This is a seat where we will win, and it's one that wherever you may be in the country, that people need to pay attention, because just like we had Congressman, as you mentioned, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who was a great voice for the community, though he was in Illinois. And the same thing is true, that no matter where, you want to have congressmen that understand our values, that understand who we are, and that can speak for the community in a very authentic way with the best interests of the community at heart.
Thank you, Rakhi ji, very much. Best of luck. Good luck for your primary and beyond. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.
Both. I really appreciate this time and talking to both of you.
Thank you.